Hello everyone, here at osandvdxreviews.com. You're watching our video review of the ZTE Flash, which is ZTE, the Chinese manufacturer's first truly premium high-end device in the United States, and it comes with a 2-year service agreement at $129.99 with Sprint service. It's still fairly affordable for the features that it offers, including a 12.6 megapixel autofocus camera with an LED flash, in addition to a 4.5-inch capacitive IPS display that has 720 x 1280 pixels, and it's very crisp, bright, and vibrant, and comes at a pretty shockingly high pixel density, so text and things look extremely sharp on the screen. That said, color saturation could be better. It doesn't pop as much as something like Super AMOLED, for example. The device also comes equipped with Nfc support, which is a pretty nice treat that's thrown in out of the box for such a, again, relatively low-end price for the specs of the handset, and you can communicate easily with Google Wallet and other such applications. It also comes equipped with wireless Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth 4.0 and GPS for Google navigation and other navigation services. The device itself is a relatively generic build, if I'm going to be totally honest. It doesn't look too different from most other high-end smartphones out there. You have a 4.5-inch screen on the front, and it's a buttonless display, so you don't have any home keys or anything like that. It provides a very streamlined and very modern take. It also looks very premium, but again, it doesn't differentiate itself from any other devices. So in terms of uniqueness, it is a little bit lacking. On the top of the device, you have access to a headphone grill, as well as the 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera for video chats, and as well as taking self-portrait images. On the left-hand side, we have a dedicated volume rocker that are separate buttons, which is very nice because it allows for a little bit more of a tactile response and feel when you're using them. A micro USB allows you to send information to your computer using a wire and to charge the phone itself, and it comes equipped with 8 gigs of internal storage. You can expand that by a micro SD card slot behind the back cover, which you'll probably need if you're planning on using a lot of images, again, especially with that 12.6 megapixel camera on the back. The device also features 1 gig of RAM to offer a pretty speedy experience overall. As far as processor chipset is concerned, we have a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 processor, which isn't as modern as we would hope it to be. It isn't quad-core, but it still is pretty responsive and fast enough to run the phone, and for most people, it does the job splendidly. But if you're doing too many Flash applications or doing too much web browsing, it can slow down occasionally. On the right-hand side, we have a 2-stage camera shutter key for taking an image with the camera on the back, and on the top is a 3.5mm headphone jack for listening to music, and a power on and off button that is centered exactly, so it's easier to press and turn the screen on and off. Again, the back has that camera. One disappointing flaw of the phone is because the camera is such a high megapixel one, it actually protrudes from the body of the device just by a little bit, and that means when you're setting the camera down on the surface, it might scratch the camera lens a little bit more easier, because the camera part is actually what's coming in contact with the desk surface, which is something to take note of. Perhaps getting a case for this phone would be a better idea. As far as, again, fitting this device into your jeans pocket is concerned, it comes at a little bit larger of a challenge. Again, I think that phones with 4.5-inch screens and above tend to have a little bit more of a challenge fitting comfortably into people's pockets and into their purses than for something like a 3.5-inch screen, for instance. But it can definitely be worse. For example, something like the HTC Titan or AT&T with a whopping 4.7-inch screen, it's super huge, and it just questions what are the boundaries between a tablet and between a phone. But again, comparing this handset with something like a iPhone 4S, you can see that the screen and the dimensions are quite a bit larger. So as far as thinness is concerned, thankfully it's still very slim and easy to slide into your coat or jeans pocket. And again, it feels very nicely built and constructed out of plastic and metal materials in your hand. Turning the device on, we were surprised that ZTE and Sprint managed to deliver to us a very generic and vanilla build of Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich, which we've actually is a huge plus in my book, because it means things aren't loaded with too much bloatware, and as a result, you're able to navigate the phone and download the applications that you want instead of something that the carrier is pushing for you to actually access and use. The screen is very bright, very responsive, and it's easy to slide back and forth between applications without any stuttering or any slowdown of speed, which is always good. The top of the device, again, offers you your basic time information and your wireless information, as well as your battery life information. Battery life on this phone was surprisingly decent. We found that we could use this for around 3 days before we had to kind of recharge the phone itself. So standby time is very good. As far as calling time, you can talk on the phone for a straight 8.5 hours before you have to recharge the battery, which is always it's a pretty good number. Again, especially with such a large display, which obviously will drain the battery faster than for something on a smaller screen, for example, like the HP Veer, which has a tiny screen. Again, the screen is very responsive and easy to access and utilize. As far as call quality is concerned, which is the most important attribute of any phone, even a smartphone, is that Sprint coverage is pretty decent in the United States. It's one of the best, in my opinion. But in the Seattle region, we found that call quality was pretty good. We were always in the region with signal strength, and when we're calling friends and family, they said that call quality sounded very good. The speakerphone on the back tended to be a little bit tinny, but it offered a really loud sound as well. So it's easy to hear our callers, and no matter where we were, we were always able to call easily and fluently and without any hiccups. And using Bluetooth as well was a very easy connection and very responsive interaction as well, which is always good. Now, the ZTE Flash unfortunately doesn't offer 4G coverage or LTE coverage, so you're using 3G speeds to operate the phone itself. So if you're browsing the web, the best choice for you to do would actually use the Wi-Fi because it's free and it's actually faster. And we found that web browsing speeds were decent, but it's definitely one of the more disappointing aspects of the phone itself, simply because pages tend to have to load a little bit longer than you'd expect, especially from a dual-core processor. And we found that things, again, was sometimes a little bit sluggish, especially if you have too many tabs open. But after a page is loaded, you don't have any checkerboard patterns showing up, so it means that scrolling speeds are always very fluid and lucid. And if you're zooming in and out using the pinch and zoom gestures, things are typically very responsive, and the screen does a very nice job of optimizing text for you to read, especially with such a high pixel density. Watching videos, movies, and also browsing the web and even reading text at smaller fonts is still a joy and still very much feasible. A better alternative is actually to use a Google Chrome browser, which actually allows you to speed up the browsing experience by quite a bit. And it's actually nice that of one of the applications that ZTE and Sprint do install on the phone is actually Google Chrome. So it's a nice feature that's pre-installed. The thing that I really like about Google Chrome is its ability to do tab browsing really easily. And again, it tends to be a little bit of a better mobile experience overall because it's easier to read. And again, you can actually share information between your phone and your PC or your laptop easily using Google Chrome by mirroring the content as Google Chrome is saying. If I wanted to open a new tab, I can also slide left and right to do that, and you can see I can change between tabs like decks of cards, reminiscent of the Palm OS operating system. It's very easy to use, and multitasking has never been really easier. Again, to close down applications on Google Ice Cream Sandwich 4.0, you press the application button on the side. You can open up many applications and the phone won't even stutter down, but it will drain your battery considerably if you have more applications open. I can get rid of the gallery, for example, the phone and the browser by swiping the application from left to right from the screen. Again, as far as widgets are concerned, you do have a few built-in ones. There's not too much. You have the choice of live wallpapers, but it isn't the one pre-installed on the phone by the manufacturer. And again, we basically have the same wallpapers that we've always been seeing since Android 2.2 with Froyo and the Google Nexus 1. We still have that same grid choice if you're up to that. It still looks very fast, and you can see that, well, live wallpapers tend to be pretty fast, but sometimes there is a little bit of stutter and frame rate issues, which tells you that the processor, again, isn't as fast as we'd really want it to be for such a vanilla built of Android. Again, we have the Google Play Store. If you want to install any applications, you can have to accept the terms, and then you're ready to go. And it's easy to install applications, games, and any software that you might need, which is always nice. One of the applications that Sprint does include out of the package is Sprint ID Packs, which allows you to actually, if you're like a mobile enterprise user, it allows you to customize the phone more accordingly to applications that might be useful for you. So this is a nice application to have, and it's not too obtrusive. So even if you don't use it, it's just going to be there in the background. We also have other Google services like Latitude, Gmail, Maps, with Google Navigation, which also works very well, especially with the loudspeaker on here. Play music, again, pretty easy to use. A special feature is Qualcomm-enabled GPS, which is something that comes exclusive for this phone, which is nice as well. We also have Google Books for e-reading and reading books, which I still prefer reading books on an e-ink screen because it's better for your eyes and it has a better contrast rate. But if you have to read books and you're stuck on a plane with this device, you do have the battery life to do that, and you do have the the pretty good screen to do that, so it's there for you. Of course, we also have pages of typical widgets like, again, analog clocks that you can resize and then drop onto the main screen. We also have a timer, and the native YouTube client is built right on into this product, so you can view videos at pretty high resolution speeds. And again, it's pretty easy to view videos. If, for example, if I press on a video and then I rotated it to the according view, you can see that images and videos load pretty decently, pretty fast over Wi-Fi, which is always nice to see. And that's pretty much it as far as applications are concerned. The last feature I'm going to share, of course, is going to be the camera, which is the main selling point. I can press and hold on the camera key to access the camera itself. Now, as a camera phone per se, I thought that the ZTE Flash was a pretty good camera, but sometimes it doesn't deliver the most in-focus shots. As far as landscape shots are concerned, we never really had an issue. Taking images was fast, was responsive, it was in focus, and the camera did a great job of, again, focusing into our subjects. One area that I did have an issue with was macro shots. If I'm doing something really close up to the camera, perhaps, again, 6 inches away, it didn't tend to focus in as correctly as I want it to be. However, with these points in mind, color saturation rates are very good. As far as pixel resolution is concerned, it has an astounding amount of pixels, and images tend to be very sharp. The same thing goes for 180p and 720p HD video recording on the phone itself. It does a very nice job of doing that. With that in mind, the device does run a little hot after you're using it for an extended period of time, especially around the camera sensor part, so that's something to take note of, and also drains the battery a little bit faster if you're using the camera. Camera editing functionalities are numerous because ZTE is, again, building this as a camera phone. We have the ability to reverse the camera to take self-portraits. It's interesting that the actually front-facing camera here produces a little bit more of a whitish tone to the images, while the back camera produces a little bit more of a yellowish tone, which is just a design aesthetic, I think, in my opinion. But it's an interesting choice to be aware of. Otherwise, we do have a pretty, again, solid camera experience. It takes pretty decent camera shots. The LED flash is pretty bright, and even in darker environments, it illuminated subjects quite well. And as far as capture rates are concerned, it isn't as fast as something like a 5 megapixel camera because the device has to save the images that you're taking. So it takes about, again, 2 seconds for you to fully take the image and then save it again. So it's not instantaneous. You also have other features like face detection on here, autofocus by tapping on the area that you want to focus on, and also macro to micro shots, panoramic mode shots, again, different application shots, as well as you can play around with the scene selection from different sepia modes to inverse the camera for an old-fashioned or a technologically advanced fashioned design. So it's just a nice little feature to have that you can play around with. So overall, the ZTE Flash, I think, is a pretty successful phone, especially for ZTE, because it provides the manufacturer with one of its first truly high-end smartphones, especially on contract with Sprint in the United States. And it delivers a pretty good performance and standard overall, especially since it's only $129 for these specs. It's actually very affordable, and it's a very good smartphone choice, especially if you're looking for a decent camera on the back of the device. Things to distract from the phone, from purchasing the phone, however, is the fact that it is occasionally sluggish with the built-in processor, as well as it does run a little bit hot, and the fact that if you're planning on doing a lot of macro shots with the camera, it might not be the best choice out there. Otherwise, it's a pretty decent phone. It has, again, a lot of pros going for it, and it's, again, one of the first for ZTE, and we're excited to see what the company will present in the future because they're taking a step forward in our books towards innovation rather than just keeping behind and providing budget-based devices. So thanks for watching here at osandvdxreviews.com. This has been our video review of the ZTE Flash for Sprint service here in the United States with its astounding 12.6 megapixel autofocus camera.